Hello, friends. Patrick McFarland here again with my buddy Keith Knight, doing a little walkthrough presentation, a quick one here, of how to combat every statist argument you've ever heard. And what we're going to do is we're just going to read the script from a 2007 article from Free Domain Radio and Stefan Molyneux entitled A Handout for Statists. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to my buddy Keith.
A handout for Statists, striketheroot.com. In the interests of efficiency, I've decided to distill every argument I've ever had with your average statist so that I can hand it out to those who argue that government is voluntary, if you don't like it, you can leave, taxation is nonviolence, etc. I thought this might also be of use to you because life is short. Here we go. Tell me, do you think violence is wrong?
And me as the statist, I'm saying, yes, violence is wrong, except in self-defense.
Agreed, except in self-defense. So tell me, how do you think that problems should be solved if we should not use violence?
Well, I think on a societal level that people should become more active in government. They should vote. And I think that governments should do A, B, C, X, Y, and Z.
But how do you reconcile your objection to violence with your support for government programs, since government programs are paid through taxation, which is coercive?
Wait, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Taxation isn't coercive.
Taxation is coercive, since if you don't pay your taxes, you are kidnapped at gunpoint and thrown into jail, where if you try to escape, you are shot.
Well, this is a democracy where we get to choose our own governments, right?
Okay. Being offered a choice between two violent alternatives is not the same as being free to choose. If a store owner gets to choose which mafia gang he pays for protection money to, can he really be argued that he is making his own free choice? If a woman can choose between two potential husbands, but will be forced to marry one of them, can she said to be really choosing marriage? People can only freely choose governments if they have the choice not to choose governments.
Well, we have this agreement with our government called the social contract that binds people together in the government.
There is no such thing as a social contract. Unless they have been granted power of attorney, people cannot justly sign contracts on behalf of others. If one man has the power to unilaterally impose his will on another and call it a contract, then logically, a man can steal from a woman and call it charity.
But I myself, I accept the social contract, and so do you if you drive on the roads or if you stay in this country.
Okay, first of all, your choice to honor a contract does not give you the right to force me to honor it. You can choose to buy a house, but you cannot justly force me to pay for it. If you forge my signature, I'm not bound to honor the contract. And I have never agreed to a social contract of any kind. Secondly, it is true that I use government services, but that is irrelevant to the central moral question of coercion. If a slave accepts a meal from his master, is he condoning slavery?
Well, I suppose not, but still, you implicitly accept the social contract by continuing to live in a country, as Socrates argued.
Can I justly create a social contract that allows me to rob anyone who lives in my neighborhood and say that if people continue to live in my neighborhood, they are expressly consenting to my new social contract?
Well, no, I guess not, but we are talking about governments and not individuals.
Is the government not composed of individuals? Is the government not just a label for a group of individuals who claim the moral right to initiate force against others, a right they define as evil for those they use violence against? If you take away all the individuals who compose government, do you still have a government?
Well, I suppose you don't, but that's besides the point. You can say that taxation is coercive, but I have paid taxes my entire life, and I never had a gun pointed to my head.
Sure. And a prisoner is not shot if he does not try to escape. If a slave conforms to his master's wishes because of the threat of violence, the situation is still utterly immoral. Does the mafia have to actually burn your shop down for the threat to be violent?
Well, no, I guess not. But I do not accept the premise that the government uses force to extract taxation from its citizens. That's just ridiculous.
All right. Is there anything that the government does that you disagree with? Do you agree, for instance, with the invasion of Iraq?
Well, I think that the invasion of Iraq was morally wrong.
Why?
Well, because Iraq had done nothing to threaten the United States.
Right. So it is an initiation of force, not self-defense. Now do you realize that the war in Iraq is only possible because you pay your taxes?
Well, I suppose to some degree that's true.
If the war in Iraq is morally wrong, but is only possible because you pay your taxes and your taxes are not extracted from you through force, then you are voluntarily funding and enabling that which you call evil. Can you explain that to me?
Well, I pay my taxes because I'm a citizen of this country. And if I disagree with the war, then I should run for office and try to stop it, or vote harder, or vote for the good people.
All right. If you were against child abuse, would you voluntarily fund a group dedicated to abusing children?
No, of course not.
And if you did claim to be against child abuse and you voluntarily funded a group dedicated to abusing children, and I said that you should stop doing that, and you replied you would not, but that if someone did oppose this abusive group, then they should try to infiltrate this group, take control of it, and somehow stop it from abusing children. Would that make any sense at all?
Well, I guess not.
If you were against the war in Iraq, but volunteered for it and agreed to fight without a salary and spent your own money to cover all your expenses, do you understand that your position would be utterly incomprehensible? You would claim to be against something and then expend enormous amounts of time, effort, money, and resources supporting it.
Yeah, that wouldn't make very much sense.
Thus, do you see that your position that the war in Iraq is a moral evil, but that you are voluntarily funding it through your taxes makes no sense at all? If the war in Iraq is a moral evil, but is only enabled through your voluntarily funding, then continuing to fund it is openly admitting that it is not a moral evil. If you are forced to fund the war in Iraq, you can maintain that it is a moral evil because it is the initiation of the use of force. However, the taxation that is also the initiation of the use of force against you must also be a moral evil because you are forced to fund the initiation of force against others. Thus, either taxation is coercion, or you are the worst form of moral hypocrite by voluntarily supporting that which you call evil. Does that make sense?
Well, I can certainly see that position, but I have cognitive dissonance, so it's making it very hard right now.
Can you find any logical flaws in my position?
No, but I still think that you're wrong.
Well, I am certainly glad that you are reading this article rather than debating me directly because, as I said at the beginning, life is far too short to waste time arguing with fools.
Damn. Well, as we see from the Candles in the Dark experience that you just made, well, we did a video together on it. Hopefully, I, as the statist, will recognize my cognitive dissonance at a later date and adopt the one true faith. Which is
terrific.
Not
Terrific. I wish you the best of luck.
Alrighty, sounds good. Well, that's this skit. I hope that y'all can find it useful. I'll include a link to this skit in the show notes page, and be sure to follow both me at the Liberty Weekly Podcast and Keith Knight on his YouTube channel, which is Don't Tread on Anyone, also found in the links below. Peace.